what it was about, it spoke to the era that it was created in, but it begged the question, what's changed and what hasn't? There was a very dynamic, fresh question about the past compared to the present. And that there were very few parts of it that just felt like, oh, gee, I've heard that too much. Most of it, in fact, almost everything in it, my friends who saw it said, felt like a fresh question.
And the Castro is known as sort of the gay mecca for the country, but really it's also known as being the white gay male mecca. So anyway, the screening happened at the Castro Theater for a week, this double bill, and suddenly the Castro Theater, and because it's such a large theater, it's a 1,300 seat theater, and then the neighborhood was suddenly filled with Black people, especially Black gay men. And I was just like, where did these people come from? It was just absolutely astonishing. And
did you not realize there was such a large community in the Bay Area for?
Had no idea.
Okay.
They were just, I knew there were folks, but it was that thing of a community that's there but invisible suddenly being visible.
Right.
Suddenly in numbers you would never ever expect. You would never see this number of Black gay folks, and that kind of put in my head that maybe it could do a piece. Maybe there's an audience for a sort of a Black queer theater piece, and then, but it's not. It really doesn't try to be everything to every Black gay man in the country. I mean, it's very specific.
You don't speak for every Black gay man in the country.
Even back then, we were just incredibly conscious of not. There's a line. These are some of our stories. So it's really like this is the story. We're going to tell it as best we can.
And even back then, how refreshing that was. Let me tell you, to have people speak from personal experience, speaking as members of a community and identifying with the community without trying to flatten things out and say, like, I am the community. That was refreshing.
Was it?
That was your artistry. That's where the artistry came into play, was that you went for the specific truths instead of general statements.
There was sort of a lightning in a bottle kind of quality that just happened. It was sort of the right piece at the right time and in the right places, and I think that's pretty much impossible to try and recreate that. But I think it's just something else now.
Right. I mean, I think we all learned a long time ago that what's magical about live performance is that in the moment something happens that's irreplaceable, and so you stop trying to repeat it and start trying to you want to discover new moments that have their own special quality. I think that there's no overstating that the Pomo Afro Homos' fierce love was a revelation in the queer community across the nation. And so when we talk about me discovering, finding out about it, and I mentioned before, I heard about it from a lot of different people, it was the buzz.
Was it because it was this mesh of LGBT and African American culture?
It was this voice that had gone squelched or unheard or unlistened to when it was spoken for so long. And it was such an important part of the community, and it was damn fun. So these are what Brian and Eric and Jola had done, was take pent up stuff that, like I say, had just remained silent by design. Really, the people had said, it's not out there, and that one brave guy had said, well, let's put it on stage. And that's really important, and it was a lot of us saw like, whoa, that matters. Wow. This matters. We want to take part in this. And a big part of the impetus for it in Boston was that we knew that there were local artists as well who could do something like this and could really benefit from the inspiration. And this brings us back to why we stage this, why remount it, is that it's still true. The inspiration still is so needed out in the community. The ripple effect, we were talking about this before, I think there are at least 4 shows that the Theater Offensive produced after Fierce Love grew out of workshops that Brian and the Pomo Afro Homos did in Boston while presenting the show. Local artists, and some damn good ones, said, I can do that. I have something to say. They didn't copy it. They created their own work. And that's legendary in Boston still. You know,
that process.
Is that process. And I think a lot of a lot of the artists that love working with the Theater Offensive grew to love working with us in Boston because they felt like that's what gave them access to terrific artists coming in from out of town. It was, you know, I was part of a community that did this together. And there really was a coalition. We couldn't have pulled it off, literally. We could not have pulled it off economically or otherwise by ourselves. Most of these groups that we worked with on that don't exist anymore, but I like to think that their legacy lives on in the Theater Offensives continuing to produce a lot of work by local and national artists, of queer artists of color.